Good evening, universe. Tonight I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. As you can see, we are in a different area than usual. It is because I do not feel well today. I have chronic headaches, and today one decided to get me pretty bad. So I still wanted to record, so we are going to keep it nice and comfy today, and I'm going to be doing the comfort book tag. I got this idea, well, basically when I wanted something comforting, I just kind of looked up comfort book tag to see if it was a thing, and it was. So I got the questions slash prompts from the Babbling Bee. Her video will be linked down below. I do apologize if the lighting is not great in here. I made it basically as bright as was tolerable when I get headache. I get really sensitive to light. Bright lights become very painful for my brain. So it is going to be a little bit softer in here than usual, but I'll try and brighten it up when I'm editing, and hopefully it comes out okay. And with all that said, I'm just going to hop right into the tag. So prompt 1 is The Kettles On, a book of steadfast comfort that's always there for you, that makes any day better, like a cup of your favorite warm drink. The real challenge of this video is going to be me not choosing the same books over and over again. I'm gonna go with this one, the entirety of the Shadowhunters Chronicles, because these books, I know every time I pick them up, I will have a good time with them. Either it will be action-packed, or it'll be full of romance, or both maybe. There's usually a lot of humor in any one of these books. I can pretty much know that I'm gonna pick them up and have a pretty good time. They're comforting, they're easy to read, and they're just really enjoyable. I would probably choose, of all of them, if I had to pick just one, Chain of Gold. Depending on how the ending is pulled off, I think this is going to be my favorite series within the series for Shadowhunters. The Last Hours, this series is called, and I just really love all of the characters. I love the setting. It's very beautiful. It's just a comforting time. Prompt number 2 is Grandmother's Quilt, a book that reminds you of a loved one. For this, I'm going to choose the Percy Jackson series. Specifically, I'll go with The Lightning Thief, book 1 in the series. This reminds me of a whole chunk of my family. Basically, my aunt and uncle and their kids, my cousins. They are the reason that I found Percy Jackson. One of my cousins, she was reading it at the time and really vibed with it because she also has ADHD. And so she lent it to me and my wife, and we both really enjoyed the series. And since then, I have been a big Percy Jackson fan. So the Percy Jackson series is also a wonderful one for comfort. It's really easy to read. It's really quick paced. The characters are wonderful. It's just a great series and a perfect one for returning to when you're having a rough time. Prompt 3 is Warm Spices, a book with particularly vivid prose or imagery, comforting in its richness, depth, or vibrance. For this, I'm going to pick Strange the Dreamer. One of the biggest challenges to me about this particular book tag is not saying Strange the Dreamer for all of my comfort books, which I know is weird considering some of the subject matter that it covers. It does get extremely heavy, but I find certain heavy topics very comforting too, because it helps me deal with some of my more difficult emotions when a book is both whimsical and light and covers heavy stuff. So Strange the Dreamer is definitely my choice for this one because Laini Taylor's writing is so beautiful and she describes everything in such interesting ways, and the world is so wonderful. I can't remember what this particular world is called, what the name of it is, but it's a fantasy world. If you're here on BookTube, you probably know all about Strange the Dreamer, but one of its strengths is the descriptions of all the beautiful things. It feels so vibrant, all of the colors are so saturated and wonderful. Like Dreamers Weep, if you've read the book and you know what that is so beautiful. I love it so much, and there are so many parts of this book that are described just so wonderfully. So for this, I definitely have to pick Strange the Dreamer. Prompt 4 is Candlelight, a book that encourages you when things feel dark. So kind of leaping off of that last one, I think I'm going to go with Muse of Nightmares for this one specifically, because Muse of Nightmares really gets into some of the heavier topics that are explored in Strange the Dreamer, but it digs into them a lot more and expands on them. It introduces new characters who have gone through particular other traumas and really dives into that. For me, one of the things that inspires hope is not saying, oh, the world won't be terrible, because there's always going to be something a little bit terrible in the world, I think, but that it can be overcome in various ways. I guess the type of books that give me the most hope is when the characters have to go through really terrible things or are kind of broken down in some way and come out of that. And you see the come out of that part. Because Muse of Nightmares is the second book in the duology, you get to see the way that the characters process everything that's happened in these two books and the way that things wind down. And because of that, it gives me a lot of hope. And so, Muse of Nightmares for this one. Laugh Medicine, a book that makes you laugh out loud, coming to the rescue on your gloomiest days. I think for this, I'm going to go with all the Chronicles of the Avatar books. There are just so many great moments of humor in all of those books that I can always count on them for a laugh. All of the Avatar properties are really great about humor and can really be counted on for that particular thing. So for this, I'm choosing The Rise of Kyoshi, The Fall of... I always do that. The Rise of Kyoshi, The Shadow of Kyoshi, and The Dawn of Yangchen. These are all great for different moments of humor. They can always be counted on to bring a laugh out of me. Prompt 6 is In Bed All Day. What do you read when you're curled up in bed all day? So I don't usually like to binge things, but one series probably that I could binge, that I could just lay in bed and read all of, is probably Fruits Basket. I love it so much. Either that or maybe Tsubasa. On the fence about Tsubasa, but I absolutely love Fruits Basket. The characters, the art, again, the humor. This is just a series that I could sit down and read all of. I remember when I was reading it, I got so frustrated because my bookstore did not have the next volume in stock. And so I had to have them order it in. And I remember just being so I gotta know what happens. So I absolutely love that series. And that is one that I could definitely just read all day. Prompt 7 is Endless Comfort, a book that brings you comfort no matter how many times you read it. This is going to be weird, but I'm going to say for this, the Lemony Snicket books. Not so much a series of unfortunate events, though that too in some ways, but more all the wrong questions. This is one of my favorite series of all time. Every time I read them, they just put me in a good mood. The way that a series of unfortunate events kind of satirizes Gothic novels, this series satirizes crime noir, but the main character is a 13-year-old who has to solve crimes. And so I really enjoyed this series. It always makes me laugh. It has really dark humor, but it's always comforting to me every time. So for this book that I can always go back to, that it will always comfort me, or at least it always has so far, I choose the All the Wrong Questions series by Lemony Snicket. Prompt 8 is Portable Hope, a book that restores your faith in humanity, in life, or in yourself. A book that tells you it's all going to be okay and tomorrow will be better. This one is hard, not because I can't think of a book that counts for this, but because I kind of already said them. I would choose Fruits Basket or the Strange the Dreamer duology. But since I already said both of those, I'm going to choose Witch Hat Atelier. I haven't finished the series yet because the series is not concluded yet. But everything that I've been reading with it so far has been really enjoyable. It's so nice and comforting and just wonderful. And the sheer beauty of the art is something that's really comforting all on its own. Plus what the characters go through and the characters themselves, all of those things. This is one of those ones that feels like it is uplifting. The whimsy, the plot, everything about it gives a sort of sense of hope and joy and delight in the world. Number 9, a basket for your neighbor. If you put together a cozy comfort basket for a loved one, which books would you include? This is really hard because, one, I know that a lot of the things that comfort me are not things that comfort other people, and two, everybody has really different tastes, so I don't know what I would pick for a loved one. I guess I would probably go with something that I think is really fun and universally enjoyable. So I would probably choose Percy Jackson again, or if to avoid repeating it, maybe The Heroes of Olympus, one of the series by Rick Riordan, just because I feel anybody of any age can enjoy them. They're always good fun that will take your mind off of things while still going through struggles and having interesting character development and creating this whole world. So that's probably what I would pick. And finally, prompt 10 is A Walk in the Woods, a book with beautiful nature writing or a book that restores your peace. Beautiful nature writing. I think for this, I'm going to choose The Guinevere Deception, because it's very fantastical and sort of fairy tale-esque, but it takes place in a really grounded world. And Kirsten White really takes the time to describe that world really nicely. There's a lot of time looking out at landscapes and things like that, and we really get that landscape super clearly. So I think this would be a good book for that. Another one that I would pick would probably be the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy, just because Laini Taylor writes so gorgeously and develops everywhere that the characters go so beautifully. Some fantastical places, some modern, real places, all of them are beautifully described. And so I think both of those trilogies would be really good for this prompt. And that is all of the prompts. So I hope you found something that sounded comforting to you, even though I know my tastes are a little bit strange and I often choose things that have an element of darkness in them. But for me, I always feel like if you don't have the element of darkness to overcome, then it doesn't hit as hard for me. Still, I hope you found something nice in this prompt, and thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you are not suffering from a headache today. Hope you're doing better than I am and just wanted something comforting and cozy to watch. Either way, thanks for hanging out with me, and have a beautiful night, universe.